Actually, in The Infiltrator, where Bob Mazur is an undercover cop with the customs, and he has to infiltrate the Medellin cartel, it was that aspect of it was actually very familiar, because that's what I do for a living. I take on other characters. So my objective really was I needed to get to know Bob Mazur, the man who puts on the mask, and why, and how does he reconcile the man who is in constant danger with being found out to be a fraud, be a person he's not who he says he is. If I'm found out to be a fraud, and they say, you're not very good, I just kind of, oh, sorry, and I go away. If I mess up, I just do the scene over again. But the consequences for Bob Mazur was the operation could be totally blown and 2.5 years of work down the drain. And that's on the good side. The bad side is he could be killed. He could easily have been killed if they found out, and they wouldn't have stopped with just him. So he had to live with that kind of stress and tension on a day-to-day basis. And the thing that really brought me to wanting to do The Infiltrator was the fact that how does that man then end his day as Bob Musella, this underground figure, and go home and be Bob Mazur to his wife and kids and take out the trash or do some chores at home or help his kids with their homework or something like that. And I thought that's the fascinating story, that balance. How does that same man divide his attention and focus and leave his work at work? It's hard for me to do sometimes, but for him, living under that constant pressure, it's almost insurmountable. I wanted to find out from Bob Mazur how he responded to that, and he's a faithful guy. And so what we wanted to show was the potential of something happening, the potential of these two noble people coming together. And in the scene after this horrendous murder that could have been their own, in all likelihood, these two characters who have worked together and appreciate each other and depend upon each other to live and to work, needed comfort. And I thought it was a very humanistic expression to have them come together in a hug, not as a sexual thing, but as a need for tactile closeness and comfort, to assure each other that you were going to be okay, to be able to exhale. Now, once that happens, they're in each other's arms. And the proximity of a cheek to cheek and smelling each other's breath and the affinity they had for each other, they could have made a mistake and could have crossed a line. But what I love about this movie is that they both realized and pulled away just enough to realize, we're not going to do that. We're not those people. But I'm glad you're with me and I'm glad you're in my life. When you first read a script or a play, you're more objective to it. You don't really know the story yet. So you read it as you would any person seeing a movie or seeing a play. I usually try to do it in one sitting. I don't want to delay it and read it over the course of 3 or 4 or 5 days. I want to sit down and I want to read it so that I get the full impact of it. Then you start imagining that, you know, and part of the actor's job is to use your imagination, your past experiences. And when you find yourself starting to daydream in character, like, oh, how would that play? Oh, it would be interesting if he'd, and you involuntarily are starting to go that way, it's usually a good sign that you're onto a good story, because that story has stayed with you and it resonates. The same way it would with an audience watching a movie. And we hope that when people watch The Infiltrator, that they'll leave and they'll discuss it and not have it just be forgotten. Those are the movies that really make a mark on your life, and those, you really think back or even debate the movie's merits with someone else, which is fair.